The works of God manifest His glory by being what they are. It is because the universe is so vast, the heavens so glorious, the earth so beautiful and teeming, that they reveal the boundless affluence of their Maker. If then it is through the church that God designs specifically to manifest to the highest order of intelligence, His infinite wisdom and grace, the church in her consummation must be the most glorious of all His works. Now, the scriptures teach that the church is the pinnacle of God's work and the great revelation of His manifold wisdom. But here's my question. Is this great compliment directed only to some universal church or to some church triumphant in heaven, or is it given also to the local assembly of believers on earth? The entire course of Paul's ministry would indicate that the local assembly is more than to be included, for it was for the sake of real people gathered in real local assemblies in real places scattered throughout Asia Minor and Europe that Paul labored so strenuously during his time on earth. They were not large in number, these churches. They were not many wise according to the flesh. They were not many mighty, not many noble. But the Apostle Paul saw them, these local churches, as the great means through which the glory of God was and is revealed to both men and angels. It is for this reason that I argue, that to neglect the local assembly and its spiritual prosperity is to neglect God's greatest plan on earth to reveal His glory. There is much of which to praise God about in this recent resurgence of the Reformed faith throughout the world, especially among young people. However, there are also many troubling signs that not all is right in Zion. It seems that a significant number of newly reformed are more often enamored with doctrine, celebrity teachers, Bible conferences, and mission agencies than they are with the local church and her ministers. While at least some of these things just mentioned can be very helpful, they are not God's primary means of advancing the gospel, caring for His people, or revealing His glory to men and angels. God's plan is the local church. Why then is she so often neglected and passed over, especially by the young? Possibly for the same reason that the typical housewife cannot compete with the supermodel or actress on stage or screen. The housewife is real, with faults and defects exposed, but the actress is made up and decorated. The housewife is the stuff of everyday life, but the actress is seen only in the most attractive role and at the most spectacular moments. Similarly, the local church is something that is real, exposed, and undecorated. A congregation of redeemed people caught in time between the already and the not yet. New creations that are not quite fully new. Pilgrims on the road to Zion, but still marred by the soil of Babylon. The conference is different, however. It is filled with like-minded people, even in the most intricate nuances of the faith, and they are all appearing at their very best behavior. There are no misunderstandings, no bickering, no outburst of immaturity. Conferences represent 3 or 4 days of heaven on earth. Then there are the conference speakers. They have published more books than the local pastor has read. They are educated and eloquent, and their sermons are full of the most intricate theological wonders. They appear suddenly upon the platform, speak with the lips of a seraph, and then are whisked away like Elijah in a chariot of fire. But the minister of the local church knows no such glory. He lives in anonymity to the larger Christian community, and yet is under the constant scrutiny of his people day after day and year after year. He has 3 messages a week to prepare, private counseling sessions, visits to the hospital, and a constant battle with fatigue and doubt. He is a shepherd guarding a handful of sheep, a lonely sentinel on a night watch, a steward who gives God's servants their rations at the proper time. Like his master, the pastor of the local church has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should be attracted to him. For these reasons and many more unmentioned, it is not difficult to see why the young and immature will be enamored with the conferences, YouTube speakers, and the great authors and musicians of our day. But the discerning eye will see the wisdom and power of God in the local congregation and in the men who faithfully serve there. We should praise God for Bible conferences and the helpful preachers who are often used so mightily in them. We should also praise God for the internet and the bountiful supply of good preaching that can be found there. However, these things should never compete with our devotion to the local church and the pastors who care for our souls. Jesus' admonition to the undiscerning crowd is applicable to us. Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. A great theologian was once asked, "Who is the greatest preacher alive today?" He responded, "Whoever he is, you don't know him." Another old preacher, has to be a friend of mine, he said this: some of the greatest sermons that have ever been preached were preached to only 5 or 6 people. It is a truth well known among the mature that God often hides his best men and his best works from a greater audience. Why would God plant the most beautiful rose he has ever created in a forest through which no man or angel will ever walk? How can he receive glory from something that is so hidden? The answer: he receives glory because it is not hidden from him, and he looks upon it with great delight. It is interesting that with regard to our participation in meetings outside of the local church, in the scriptures, we have no commands. But with regard to the local church, we have a sound and certain command. Hebrews 10:24-25. Young people, this is a command. Let us consider how to stimulate one another to good deeds. Let us not forsake our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. And this is not talking about getting together in a coffee shop. It's talking about getting together in a true local church with true biblical leadership. This text is proof positive that if we are not committed to a local congregation of believers, we are not walking in the will of God. And the key word here is commitment. The command is not fulfilled by mere attendance, but by our active participation in the growth and sanctification of the body. We should never think that we are doing God's will. We should never think that we are doing God's will simply because we attend a church with sound theology and expository preaching and are frequently involved in theological conversations with our peers. We are committed to the local church when we are actually ministering in the church under the direction of the elders and for the sake of the least of Christ's brethren, even those who do not share our interest in high theological dialogue, but are simply struggling to make it down the road to Zion. If we do not love the most broken, needy, and theologically inept brethren in the local church, then our love for the church and for Christ himself is in question. If you are young and reformed, I would plead with you to start your journey into truth and Christ-likeness within the context of the local church and under the care of a pastor or pastors whose lives are worthy of imitation, who preach the truth, and who truly care for your soul. I would also plead with you to understand that your theology is only as good as your piety and your love for the local church manifested in acts of self-denial and service to the least of Christ's brethren. The church.